quiet on set, please. So who are you?
Oh, I am Duncan Banks, the director of the FurtherFaster Network in the UK and Ireland. Take one.
So what does a church that unchurched people love actually look like?
Interesting you asked me that. I was asked that very same question in the gym the other day. I was chatting with a guy walking on a treadmill next to me, and he asked me, as you do, what I did for a job, and I told him I help church leaders create churches for people who don't usually go to church, so that they love it and want to come back again and again. And so then he goes on and asks that very same question you've just asked, what does a church like that actually look like? He said, because I don't go to church. So we stepped off our machines and I told him, we think there are 5 foundations that help leaders build an attractive church. And after I told him those 5 foundations, he whispered to me, don't tell anyone else. But I'm a curious atheist, he said. And if there was a church like that around here, I think I'd go. So here's my first foundation. Be intentionally for your local community. Our churches are intentionally for their local community. Why? Because for too long now, the church has been known for what we're against. I mean, we've got a reputation for being against absolutely everything. Now it's time for us to be known for what we're for. And like it or not, our reputations precede us. People are experiencing us long before they show up in person. So what are you known for locally? I mean, does your local community even know you're here? Are they glad you're here? Are they better off because you're here? One look at your social media will tell you how you're doing on this one. I mean, think about your Facebook or your Instagram. Is it all about you, or is it about your local community? The second foundation is this. We have a clear plan to help people radically follow Jesus. A clear plan to help people radically follow Jesus. Why? Because life change happens best when people have easy, obvious and inspiring next steps that moves them from simple believers to radical followers. So our churches provide next steps that inspire costly personal change at a person's very core. And here's why. Because following Jesus was never supposed to be just life-enhancing, but life-changing. I mean, think about it. Shouldn't Christians be known by the fire in their souls and the wild-eyed gratitude in their faces, the twinkle in their eyes and the holy mischief in their demeanors? And spiritual growth isn't a one-size-fits-all affair. And yet for so many churches, that's exactly what we've created. All you need to do is show up on Sunday and listen to me preach, and then round to Bob and Sarah's house on Tuesday night for a small group, and you're pretty much set. So what's your clear plan that moves people from discovering Jesus through the ups and downs of faith and into wild-eyed Jesus followers who are resilient and generous and others-oriented? The third foundation our churches are built on is this. They create a come and see culture. Why? Because people who are nothing like Jesus liked him and he liked them back. And we want them to like us too, so much so that when we invite them to church, they're so enthralled with Jesus that they'll want to keep coming back and maybe even bring a friend. And you have to understand me, this is less about creating some culturally relevant hip service that strives for excellence. It's more about creating emotionally relevant experiences that strive for a real sense of authenticity. So when our churches plan their Sunday services, they simply assume that unchurched people are going to be in the room, every room, including online. So every Sunday they ask themselves, do our facilities look like we're expecting guests and their families? Is the message content helpful? Is it genuine? What's stopping me inviting my unchurched friend next Sunday? The fourth foundation, our churches prioritize the next generation. Why? Because if we over-focus on the needs of people our age, we'll eventually only have people our age. mean, think about it. Most parents drag their kids to school on weekdays. Wouldn't it be so amazing if your church was so irresistible to the next generation that the kids were literally dragging their parents to church on Sunday? Come on, mum and dad, wake up, get out of bed, take us to church. But if you want to prioritise the next generation, it's going to mean investing heavily in the next generation. It'll mean committing your budgets towards it, creating environments that they find irresistible, recruiting the very best volunteers who will serve them and their parents consistently. And if we don't make the next generation a priority, if we leave them with a simplistic, childish faith and a boring, irrelevant church experience, they're never going to cope with the morally complex world adults have to negotiate every single day. So our churches do ministry with the next generation, not just for them. And they involve them in leadership as early and as consistently as possible. Okay, so the fifth, the final foundation, our churches gain, train, and retain volunteers. Why? Because we're never more like Jesus than when we serve. And serving is the secret sauce that moves people from consumers to contributors. Now, our churches, your church, will only grow as large as our serving teams enable us to grow. Small teams will create small churches. So growing your teams, growing your volunteers will open up the door to growing your church. But you need a plan. You need a plan to gain, train, and retain volunteers. And if you're struggling to find people to serve, maybe your ask isn't clear enough. Maybe you're just disorganised, or your mission's just a little bit fuzzy, or maybe the challenge just isn't big enough or exciting enough. So, these are our 5 foundations, and we've discovered that when churches put their best people and their best energies behind these 5 things, along with some budget, they actually begin to grow by reaching unchurched people. Now, none of this is rocket science, but as a leader, you know this. It takes the same kind of energy to make all this happen as it does to get a rocket off the ground.
Duncan, how does the FurtherFaster Network help church leaders create those kind of churches?
We call it our 3C strategy of help for leaders. 3 C's. First C, helpful content. Helpful content. We give leaders incredible content for their adults, their teens and their kids. We provide Sunday message kits that include all you need to deliver a memorable Sunday message series, from message transcripts to videos and graphics and small group notes. And we use the Orange curriculum, state-of-the-art stuff for kids and teens, along with world-class leadership tools, webinars, conferences and masterclasses, both live in the room and on demand. And it'll help develop you and your team. The second C is authentic connection. We regularly gather like-minded leaders to learn from each other so that no one feels alone on the journey. We have call groups where our lead pastors meet monthly, along with groups for ministry area leaders like kids and youth workers and digital ministry leads and people responsible for Sunday service programming and welcome teams and discipleship. The final C is personalised coaching. Personalised coaching. We train and appoint MACs, ministry area champions, proven experts in their field, and they'll walk with church staff and volunteers to help them every step of the way. And oftentimes we'll bring world-renowned ministry leaders into our churches who'll coach us in specific areas like fundraising and community engagement and discipleship models that actually work. And hey, because we're really generous as a network, do you want a 4th C? Of course you do. The 4th C is specific context. We'll contextualize these principles and these practices into your unique setting by allowing you to see them at work in other network churches around the UK and Ireland and the USA and beyond. So, if this has sparked something in you, here's your next step. Take a moment to complete our free online church assessment. You can find it right down here on our website. Just point this bad boy into your internet provider. It'll help you have a reality check on how your church is doing in reaching lost people in your community based around these 5 foundations. And it'll give you some really helpful resources and doable next steps for you and your team as you travel. So come on, let's do this journey together, huh?